President Biden is reportedly set to announce this week that he does plan to run for re-election. Live now to discuss this is WSFA Washington correspondent Peter Zampa. Hi there, Peter.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, thanks for joining us again this afternoon. Let's talk about this. President Biden expected to run again?
Yeah, reports are pointing toward a video announcement sometime next week, actually pointing toward Tuesday of next week. And Mark, that date matters to this president because 4 years ago to that day exactly is when he threw his hat in the ring for his current term. But no real surprises here, Mark. I mean, his team has been hinting at this for quite some time, including his wife, Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States. But he's also been going around the country, and each speech he gives really sounds like a campaign speech, talking about legislation passed under his watch, like bipartisan bills like the Infrastructure Act or the Chips and Science Act, that semiconductor manufacturing bill that brings jobs back to the U.S. But he also talks about more progressive legislation to get those progressives in the Democratic Party on his side, like the Inflation Reduction Act, that widespread climate and social spending bill that passed last year. So for months now, he's really been talking like a man who wants to run for another 4 years, saying to constituents and friendly crowds, look what I've done. Why not do this for another 4 years? It won't be that easy for him, but it looks like he is going to run.
Yeah, even among Democrats, there is concern, I think, about his age. Democrats show in polls that they're split on whether they want him to run again. Tell us about this poll.
Yeah, Mark, that's the exact reason I believe that Democrats are evenly split as to whether they want to see Joe Biden run in 2024. This AP poll shows that age may be a factor for some of these people. You hear progressives all the time say they want new blood, they want new ideas. He's been in office forever. We need someone new to bring new energy to this party. That being said, Mark, when you dig deeper into these numbers, he's got a 78% approval rating among Democrats right now. And if he were to be the nominee, this poll also shows that they would overwhelmingly support him. So whether they want him to run or not is one issue, but whether they will vote for him and get behind him is the only real issue that matters, because once he throws his hat in the ring, likely next week, maybe it'll be delayed. Whenever that happens, Democrats will be full bore behind him.
Well, it sounds like he very well may be the Democratic nominee. Now, in the Republican Party, we're still not quite sure who that person will be. Donald Trump does have a commanding lead over his challengers in a separate poll, correct?
Yeah, that's right. The Wall Street Journal just came out with a new poll, and it's interesting because we know this about Donald Trump. He's very polarizing. His favorables and unfavorables actually really match Joe Biden's, whereas the challenger that most folks have their eyes on, who isn't even in the race yet, is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida. His favorables and unfavorables are more even. But when it gets down to Republican primary voters, Donald Trump now has a 13% lead in this latest poll. That's completely flipped from December when you had the same question, DeSantis versus Trump. DeSantis was up by 14 points at that point. So things have really changed. It seems like there's been some catalyst in the Trump campaign. And when you look at this poll that's recently out, all signs may point to Alvin Bragg, the DA in New York's investigation and prosecution of Donald Trump, bringing those charges. We knew it would be some kind of galvanizing moment, but 40% of these respondents in this poll say they're more likely to vote for Trump now that these charges have been brought forward. So we knew it would provide some energy for Trump, but these numbers are pretty outstanding. And if Ron DeSantis continues to not get his hat in the ring, it's unclear how much bigger this gap could get for Trump.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. Being charged with a crime is actually a good thing for politicians these days. All right, another issue that you are following there in Washington is the U.S. Supreme Court. We are expecting perhaps a ruling sometime this evening about the abortion pill mifepristone. What's the latest?
Yeah, the Supreme Court gave themselves an 11:59 p.m. deadline tonight to decide exactly what to do with these lower court rulings on mifepristone, this abortion pill, this abortion medicine that is part of a two-step process to carry out an abortion with medication. And so it's unclear what kind of access we could see restricted. We could see them potentially fully ban the medicine, like that conservative judge in Texas wanted to happen, just completely revoke the FDA's authorization of this, or we could just see some limits placed on this. this, maybe restricted access. It's not as easy for folks to get this. Maybe you can't get it by mail like is currently allowed. Or we see no changes at all, and that the FDA's initial ruling 23 years ago is upheld, and that it's still full access to this drug. That being said, as I said, it's a two-step regimen. So mifepristone and misoprostol are the two medicines you take. According to some data, you can just take misoprostol. It's supposed to be safe and effective. Of course, surgical abortions are still allowed in many states across the country, so it won't outright ban abortion. But at the end of the day, Mark, this is just abortion back at the doorstep of the Supreme Court. And part of the point of overturning Roe v. Wade was to push this all back to the states. Well, the states are now getting litigated again, so we're back at the Supreme Court less than a year later.
All right, Peter Zampa, thanks for explaining it to us. We appreciate you as always.